Hello folks, welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. So glad you could join us here today. For those of you who are rejoining us, who have been here before, welcome, welcome. It's so wonderful to have you here again. And for those of you who are brand new, thank you for joining us today. So what I thought we would do today is check in with our shadow self. There's a lot of energies coming in at the end of 2019, even though this is a timeless message. So anytime you come across these messages for you, whichever pile that you choose, it will be the right time for you. But we're going to delve deep into our psyche here, and we're only asking for messages of love and light and integration. So any kind of help that we can get from our own subconscious, from our own love of self, and from our shadow self, so we can pull all that energy up, integrate it into the light, and then move forward. So we're going to get you some answers today. So as always, we have 3 piles. So what I've done here, and I know that none of you know what these messages are, but there's a channeled message on each of the piles. So I'm just going to ask you we're going to ground in and take a deep breath, and just going to ask you to see which pile resonates with you. If you need to go ahead and take a minute, then obviously do whatever you need and take as long as you need. The timestamps, as always, will always be underneath in the comments section, or just underneath, and you'll be able to go to your pile immediately. And also, as always, I'm trying to make sure that we can make these general readings as personal as possible and get you as much information as possible. So I've been using these charms for the last couple of readings, and I've been really enjoying them. So do let me know in the comments too if they work for you, if they provide extra information. I'd love to hear from you about the charms. But we will be using the charms to give you some, extra messages, extra information. So we're going to call in our spirit guides, and again, we're going to ground into the energy of love and light. We are asking for messages that will resonate from our, not darker selves, but from our shadow self, bring in any information into the light so we can integrate and move forward with positivity. So let's go ahead and move these out of the way. Okay, pile 1. As we've already stated, this is going to be a timeless message, and we are connecting with messages from your shadow self, bringing some wisdom into the light so you can integrate and move forward with positivity, and get you some information that hopefully will resonate and you did not know before. So if you chose pile 1, pile 1ers, this is your channeled message. Release the memory of them. That was then, this is now. So that is your message, pile 1. And again, this is a timeless reading, and we're going to go ahead and use the charms at the end too. We want to get you as much information as we possibly can. So, messages from your shadow self. Let's go right into this. Okay, we have the Earth Fairy, physical health, grounding, foundation. And I really love this deck here. So I don't know if you can see this image. So we have balance, reversed. We have the moon. And we have the 10 of Wands. Weighed down with problems, very heavy load, it says. The messages that are on the bottom of these are, for the most part accurate, but they have their own interpretations. So we'll be working with our own interpretations today. So, all right, messages from your shadow self. So what I'm being called to do here actually is get some charms, and I'm going to read the charms for you, pile 1, with your reading too. Usually I read these at the end, but I'm going to do... Okay, so we can have, we have a badge here, and it's holding on to this shape, geometric shape, which is something that you're holding on firmly onto. You're holding firmly onto. And then we have our peacock feather. And then we have feather, an actual feather. And then we have our cycle here and our star. So I'm going to place these here and see what they all mean when we get into this. So the first message I'm getting for you, pile 1, is that let's see. You have, the first message I'm getting is that you've been resisting something. You've been resisting moving forward in a way. You've not been holding yourself back in any way, shape or form, but the wisdom that you have been accumulating throughout your life, and the healing that you've been doing, and the connection that you've been taking, you have been keeping it. Okay, so you have been keeping it within, and the one thing that I'm seeing is sort of a prison cell. So you've been, so let's be a little bit clearer. So you've been, the wisdom that I'm being told not to say that you've been hoarding any of the wisdom, far from it. You've been helping people as much as you can, but the wisdom that you have been keeping hold of is wisdom that you've been keeping inside, and there's a little bit of fear or darkness around letting it out. So the one thing that I'm getting, pile 1, is that you're a little bit, you used to be deathly afraid of your power, and you're still a little bit afraid of your power. The one way in which you have worked in this lifetime to, and the word is that you're trying to do, is eradicate the fear of power. But that's not really what's going to happen. It's just a matter of working with your shadow self. And these are messages directly from your shadow self. So working with your shadow self and shining light into the shadows. But you've been accumulating this wisdom by slowly but surely sort of training yourself in different modalities, and doing a vast amount of work and shining your light within, and figuring out how you can release stuff. Like you've done a lot of self-analysis, I've been told. And within that self-analysis has been linked and then integrated in with your wisdom, but you're still afraid of your own power. And what your shadow self has been trying to teach you, actually, your profound message, is that the balance that you seek between your light and dark will only happen is when you actually and completely surrender to your fate and what it is that you're supposed to do in this lifetime. So there's no easy way of saying this, pile 1, and it's not negative at all. It's actually hopefully going to help you, and it's going to be brilliant. But there is an aspect of you that's been gaining this wisdom, and has been, sort of going out into the world on their own terms. And I feel as though you've made great strides in many ways, and you've actually done many great things, I would say, in the external, in the external world, but you haven't accomplished what it is that you wanted to accomplish. And what I'm being told here is the number 2, because you do seek balance, which is reversed. But again, these are just messages from your shadow self in order to help you regain or integrate the balance. So what I'm getting from this is all your wisdom that you have, and it's and that you've gained it. And what you've done is you've done an incredible amount of gaining of that wisdom, and also attributing it to your own life. Like I said, a lot of self-analysis, and in that way you can truly help yourself, and you have done that, and you can also help others. But surrendering to your actual fated existence in this lifetime is what they're asking you to do. So you can see all of this is on the external, and you are holding it. But I'm being told that there's an essence of yourself that micromanages your life. So even though you have this wisdom and you're aware of this wisdom and you're aware of the power that you have, and you've honed in on this power in a great way and made great strides, especially with grounding, and you've worked on foundations. I would say for you it would be first chakra stuff. You've been working on moving out of the survival mode. And there's many different ways you've been helped with this. There's many different avenues and systems of either, I keep getting like CBD oil and other systems of help and holistic medicines that you've used in order to create this wholeness and the sense of freedom around you, which is absolutely brilliant. And you have jumped through and being shown many different hoops and many different layers of healing, and you have brought this to the earth or to the external world. But what you're supposed to do is so much more vast than that. So this is the external stuff, and there's still an element of you that's a little bit afraid of your power, that if you take all of the power that you have and you shine it onto the world, it's almost like you might explode. There's an essence of you that's still afraid of your own power. Now, this is your dark side, or I would say your shadow self, which you consider your dark side, but it really isn't. There's an aspect of you that is hidden in the shadows that's profoundly and innately more powerful than you could ever assume. And there is an element of you that's a little bit afraid that if you claim this power in some way, that you will be seen as somewhat arrogant. So you're afraid of that, and that's part of it. The other side of it is that you are afraid of, and we have the star here, you are afraid of shining bright as a star. There is a part of you that still needs to be shed, that there is an aspect of you that comes from your shadow self, and this is something that you picked up, that there's a little part of you that believes that there's a little bit of life that will be a burden, that things will eventually come to you and perhaps for you, but they have to be earned. And this is something that your shadow self has been telling you to protect yourself so you can go slowly and heal on your own terms. Now, this is something that you needed at the time. You did need to go slow at certain times in your life in order to heal slowly and properly and peel back those sort of layers of the onion in your own way and on your own terms. So I feel as though there were aspects of the shadow self that were very much, and the shadow self was always trying to protect, but really trying to protect. There was a lot of aspects of self and divisions of self that your shadow self was genuinely trying to protect, but it no longer works for you anymore. And these are messages, again, directly from your shadow self. You have this intricate knowledge and wisdom that's being held within, and there are aspects of that are being let out and shining on the world and being able to help others. But again, the way in which you are letting that out, if we're being honest, pile one, and don't take this the wrong way, it's being slightly micromanaged, very specific in the way that you do it. You have not completely released your past. You have not quite completely released your own power onto this earth because you are afraid of I think there's an aspect of self that's still a little bit afraid of what it is that you're supposed to do here, and the complexity of it, and maybe the beauty of it, and honing in on the fact that you're going to be able to do it. It's no small thing. I do definitely see that this journey that you have been on has been for most of you, and again, this is a general reading, it's been fraught with burden in some ways. It's been done in the shadows. It's been done working through aspects of the shadow self and the aspects of darkness. I feel as though, especially, definitely in the last 10 years, but I would say in the last 2 years, so that would have been, it would have started in 2017, coming into sort of present day at the end of 2019. And again, these are still timeless messages, but I do feel as though in the last couple of years, you have really come in on your own in trusting aspects of source and working with your spirit guides. And that has definitely opened you up to the light and been able to trust yourself. I feel as though there's aspects of yourself that you still do not trust because you fear your own power that's still within. And again, you have been working on this. Now, I feel as though for some of you, you may have been terribly afraid of your own power because you are extremely powerful. I also believe the messages that I'm getting is that you have shamanic energy for most of you. So when you work with the light, you also work with the dark. And there might be some of you who were afraid of working with sort of the darkness or aspects of the darkness because you did not know if you could hold the light enough in order to be able to be balanced enough to work with the darkness. But I feel as though an aspect of self, pile one, is that you are to work with people in the whole sense of healing. So the whole sense of healing, the wholeness of healing remains that you will be looking at the darkness too. I feel as though some of you do actually maybe see dark entities or realize that they're around. And for some of you, again, this is a general reading. This is not to freak you out in any way. And you would not be being told this if you did not have the energy and the light to be able to dispel this. This is just a matter of honing in on your complete power. And the last part of your healing is releasing to the fact that you will be able to help all sorts of other people, including people in addiction or abuse type situations. You will be able to help people in the dark kind of situations like that because of your willingness and your power to be able to work with those entities. And I think that's kind of an intense message, but it really isn't. Your feather here is that there are many light beings that are working with you, and you are holding this wisdom and this power in order to be able to do this. And you've been training for this in some aspect of your life, for your entire life. And the last aspect of self to be able to do that is to release to the light. And in order to do that, it means that you will be releasing your entire power and be able to fuse the dark within the light finally for yourself and move forward, sort of working in different dimensions. So there's been a lot of different readings recently about working in different dimensions. We have moved completely into the 5D and the 3D. Now, I want to be really clear here for those of you, even though this is a general reading, I know I keep saying that, but for those of you who are sitting there going, oh my goodness, there's nothing to fear, because as we've moved into the 5D, the idea of our notions of what I want to say, quote unquote, evil, has shifted and changed. Now, I don't want to say that there isn't darkness out there. There is, but the power of light, now that we've moved into the 5D, is nothing to fear. And there's nothing in you that will not be able to cope and be able to dispel all of the sort of negativity or the darkness around our concept of evil. Now, what you have been dealing with, and this is huge too, and this is part of your message, pile one, and we're just going to read it for you again. Release the memory of them that was then and this is now. So what you have been working on steadily and I would say quite swiftly, especially in the last year, of your notion of redefining your notion of evil, to be respectful of the fact that there is negativity, and if we do allow it in, it can actually destroy us. And I feel as though you've had first-hand experience with that. However, if you come in completely in your own power and in your own light, relying and completely and knowing that you have the support of all of your guides in a profound way, and you have opened yourself up completely to the light and your own power. So you're not micromanaging. You're not. I keep being shown that you're sort of like 3 steps backwards, 5 steps forward. You're letting in the light, and then sort of closing it up, sort of a window, and then slowly closing the window. So you're letting in a certain amount of light, and then you're closing it down when you feel a little overwhelmed. Now, this is perfectly normal, but the reason why you are feeling overwhelmed is because you're closing that portal of light. If you embrace the fact that you have these gifts and you open yourself up completely to the light, then you will never feel burdened, and you will never keep going in these cycles of understanding your power and then being afraid of putting your power out there under certain circumstances. You will hold your power with you and take your light with you no matter where you go, and no matter what circumstances you go through, your light will be able to surrender into the darkness and then hold the darkness, and then eventually what it will do is dissipate the darkness. What you're currently doing is you're very aware of your power, but because you're a little bit of afraid of your power, you're pulling your power back, and then in situations where you can sense negativity and certain things like that, you're getting overwhelmed and then shutting your power down. So your shadow self is saying that you're now ready to release completely from your past. And again, release the memory of your past and how you worked with negative people before in your own life, and how these people showed up for you in order to show you the way forward. You've had the way in which you've worked with other people. You may have overcompensated to be the caretaker to the point where you did not look after your own self. You put other people first to the detriment of your own character. Now you have learned how to some of you may have self-medicated, which is totally reasonable in this lifetime, but now you are moving completely beyond that, and there's no reason to do any of that. And if there's a tendency to a little bit self-medicate, or if there's a tendency to roll back into a little bit of negativity or feel a little bit overwhelmed, it's because your shadow self is coming in and telling you and sort of pushing your light out and saying you don't need to protect your light. And I feel as though some of you feel as though you're protecting your light and saving it, and you can savor your light, and it comes out at certain times when you need it. So really what your shadow self is saying is that if you surrender to the light and surrender to your own power at its source, and surrender to the fact that you absolutely know from a shadow of a doubt that you have the backup, sort of like they're coming in almost like cops, they will defend you at all times. You are not doing this alone. And you can always call on them. You will always be okay if you surrender your energy, your light and your power to your fate. And your fate is to be the most powerful person that you can possibly be. And this is just the last of what you've done. I think for some of you, you may have seen trying to balance as a little bit of a burden, and your life is a little bit of a burden, and how you've gotten where you've gotten to as a little bit of a burden. And that's because the heaviness of your soul wants to be released. So you are completely ready to completely surrender and release to the light, and claim in every aspect of self what it is that you're supposed to do, which is for you many different things, but you're definitely supposed to help and be of service. But it's a very powerful mode of existence, what you are supposed to do in this lifetime. And it's like we've said, it's time to release completely into the light and not hoard. I keep being told that you're hoarding your light, and you're definitely shining it and helping people when you feel like you have the energy, and then you're hoarding it back because you feel as though you're still feeling the sort of negativity of it when you go out there, and you help, and you're completely connected. You feel as though, this is my life source, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then you might wake up riddled with doubt the next day. So it's all primary. It's all about just harnessing your power and completely surrendering to it, without the fear that it will be misunderstood by others, that you will be seen as arrogant. I mean, really, in this lifetime, you really will be at the head of what you do. And if it does sound arrogant to others, that's just the way it's going to be. There's nothing you can do about that. So I wouldn't even worry about it or think twice about it. It's this, your reading really is about this. And the other side of this says, girls can tell. You can tell that this is here. You can tell that it's time to release all that you are into this world. And there is absolutely nothing you can't do. There's an abundance of love and light completely around you at source level at any time that you need help. You are absolutely not alone. You did not come into this world without being alone, but you have come into this world to lead. And this is your final step in doing this. So I would say hold on to your hats, pile one, because you are being told this because you are ready to move forward and move out of the final cycle of having that sort of intrinsic sort of nagging, that little bit of fear that's still there. That's a little bit of your own power, which, as we've said, if it's released to the light, not only will you not be afraid of your own power, you will fully receive the support that you deserve at any given time, and you will fully walk into the wholeness of the gravity of what it is that you're supposed to do in this lifetime, which means you will be in complete alignment. Once you're in complete alignment, the fear will dissipate. The negativity that seeps in sometimes and the doubt that seeps in sometimes will dissipate, and you will walk in light completely and totally. So pile one, that is not a small message for you. I do trust that you're ready to get this message because you are ready to walk completely into your own power. And there's nothing that you can do. And I feel as though if this does resonate with you, it's because you've been walking slowly and moving through, as we've said, peeling back the layers of the onion to get to this point. So this should be this message should resonate with you deep at your core, I hope, because you feel as though you're ready. So pile one, if this resonated with you, do let me know. A thumbs up, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I always love to hear from you guys. Absolutely and totally. I'm available for readings. I have several different specials going on at the time. There are so many different, well, my email is below. That's the main way to get in touch with me. But until we meet again, you take care, pile one. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. Okay, pile two. This is your message. Again, this is a timeless message. And we're looking for love and light messages, but we're looking for pieces of the puzzle, messages from your spirit guide. Well, definitely from your spirit guides, but specifically from your shadow self, to illuminate what needs to be worked on so you can integrate the light and dark in a new way and move forward with light and hope. So the first thing that we're going to do is, this is your channeled message, surrender to your path. So that is your channeled message. So let's get right into this and see what we have, what messages we have for you. Okay. Okay, we have protection. We have the twins and heart here. And if the number 21 means something to you, then we have the 5 of Cups reversed. We have the 6 of Pentacles reversed. And then we have the Queen of Cups. So, as we've done with pile one, I think what we're going to do, normally I do read the charms at the end, but I'm being called to read the charms with your reading here. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so the first thing that we have here, it says, making time for a relaxing vacation. So So the message that I'm getting for that specifically is space. The message that I'm getting for this is Hand of God. Now, how you interpret God is completely up to you. I interpret God as source. So we'll leave it there for now, source. But if you interpret God as God, that is absolutely wonderful, and that is totally you. So universe, some people source. So Hand of God is... the hand of God is here for you to utilize, and they are definitely, the first message is to take some space to regroup. That's the first thing that I'm getting. So we have the Eiffel Tower here, which I usually see as the Tower and the Tower card. I also see the ring turquoise also is, we have a lot of circles here that I'm seeing. I don't know if you can, so we have this and circle and circles here. So it's a completion of circle is what I'm being told, and give yourself the space to become who you are. There is a little bit of a different kind of energy, but there's a sort of a similar message than to pile one here. I would say some crossovers. So the tower here is that I feel as though there has been some kind of sort of not drastic breakdown, but there's been a crack, there's been a leak, there's been a break, and sources asking you to give yourself the space to allow all this information to come in. Things have shifted. This would be very recently for you. And there's been sort of I would say, this is a timeless message. So whenever you're getting this probably would have gone through this. I would say particularly in the last 3 months, but it's thick and fast in the last 2 months to 1.5 months. A lot of things have been coming up for you, and it's been quite difficult. Now, what we say is, what Spirit is saying here and what Source is saying is that when things come in thick and fast like this, it's because they're moving out for good, but it's been very heavy. It's been very heavy for you. Now, you've had a lot of protection, and you've been sensing that. And you've had to really differentiate the dark side of your mind. You've had to differentiate all of the stuff. The shadow self has been very active with you and is bringing up all the sludge, and almost it feels as though to you, Paltu, as though it's been thrown at you. And the last 3 months you've been trying to catch a break, and you've been trying to like wash off this, this muck, quote unquote, that's been thrown at you. Now, you've had a lot of protection. You've felt that protection, but sometimes you feel as though you've been drowning in it, almost like quicksand. Now, what's this been coming up for you actually it's been wonderful, but it doesn't feel that way. I've always seen the tower personally in many ways. When I first started reading tarot when I was very young, I did interpret it as something necessarily drastic happening. And there were a few times that I've read this for people and something terrible did happen in their lives. But my understanding of the tower and my relationship with the tower card has really shifted and changed. It no longer means that for me, and it no longer means that for you or the readings that I do. But the tower does signify that everything is crumbling, that your foundation is crumbling, that you can no longer rely on the old anymore, and the old is coming up, and you have been witnessing and feeling this thick and fast in order to be released. And we do understand that you have been very overwhelmed, but at the same time you have all these circles here, and even though a lot of the darkness has been coming up and it's been really frightening for you, you have the strength and the resources, the Queen of Cups here, to be able to deal with all of this. I am being told without a doubt that this is the end of a profound cycle for you, the end of the old. Give yourself some space. You are moving into a glorious new beginning, which is the hand of God here, where the old will no longer be mirrored. So it's a brand new fate that you're walking into, but it does feel as though you're coming through this and walking through the rubble, and there's a lot of destruction I feel as though there's been a lot of fear that's come up because for some of you, if you're listening to this pile too, my heart goes out to you that you might have felt as though you were even having sort of some sort of breakdown, or because your shadow self has been showing you this and really throwing up literally throwing up a lot of this old stuff for you. Now, the one thing that I'm going to say that I'm getting from your shadow self is they were throwing this stuff up at you to get it out. And again, it was intense because you were going to release it. You were never going to carry any of this stuff. They were showing you how huge it was because you had it hidden, and they wanted you to see the burden that you had been carrying your entire life. But you had enough protection here, and you had a lot of the elemental aspects of self. We have the earth here and we have water, but you also had fire and air. You had all of the balanced elements protecting you from it sticking. But they wanted you to see how dark that stuff had become and how irrelevant it was to your life and to moving forward. So again, some of you may have been seeing, going through certain circles in your life, sort of going through and meeting the same sorts of people, and going through certain aspects of self so you could return to this moment. But this is like no other moment that you've ever been through. This is a brand new beginning, and it feels like complete destruction. So we want to talk about this card now. I know there's an aspect of self, even though it's super, super sweet, but there's an aspect, I don't know if any of you have ever seen The Shining, but you're probably quite familiar with that, the twins up on that floor and the blood coming in and being connected. So there's an aspect of self here with feeling as though you're going under and a little bit of everything crumbling and your foundation crumbling, things no longer working for you. But actually, you may have seen it as the sort of twins from The Shining, and you may have had a sort of a horror story sort of aspect of self and version of it. But actually what they're doing is they're just showing you that the darkness that you felt that's being shown at you is something rooted a little bit deeper. And all it is that you didn't trust yourself to be a good person. And they're showing you that, this should resonate with you, pal, too, because hopefully you've, as the destruction sort of came in and everything was sort of like crumbling around you, the one message that your guardian angels and your shadow self has been saying and has been projecting onto you, and you should have had this and integrated this aspect of self, is that you have a purity of light inside of you that is really profound and beautiful, an intense amount of energy of innocence. There is nothing about you that you could do to hurt or do any harm to anyone. There is nothing evil or dark. Even your darkness is light. And even your darkness that you've had to deal with, you would never use that darkness against another human being or another in any way, shape, or form. Now, for some reason, there may have been some doubt around that. So where you may have been crumbling and feeling as though the energy around you is very sort of The Shining like, this is the reality of it. Pure and total innocence and getting back to your inner child and this sense of purity. The word I keep getting is purity. So the one thing that you are now coming on the other side of this, now that you've completed this cycle, you're giving yourself the space, really pulling in the light from the hand of God, and embracing the destruction, because all it is, it's crumbling the old around you, is you're left with this really intense and beautiful sense of self, which is full of beauty, which is full of innocence, full of light and pure intentions. The word I keep getting is purity. Now, you've blocked yourself in certain ways. And again, this is the past, but your shadow self is telling you you've blocked yourself in certain ways in the past of putting yourself out there because in the past you may have helped people, and it was wonderful that you did, but you hadn't figured out aspects of self to pull that energy of helping somebody home. So in some ways you may have felt as though you did more harm than good, and you weren't healed enough to sort of to help others. And there's been an aspect of self that's been a little bit of self-doubt. So you've turned that energy against yourself, and then you've doubted that you were of pure intentions, that you've doubted that you were a healer to its complete degree, that you are absolutely here to heal, that you deserve to be out there healing others, that you could heal others. But with this, and I want to keep using the word destruction, because I want you to get used to the idea that when things fall apart like this, it can be a good thing. You've been relying on the part of you, the shadow self aspect of you that's telling you that you need to stay together, that falling apart is bad. We won't be able to get up from this, and that's absolutely not true. You have the protection that you need. You are the Queen of Cups. You have everything that you need, and all of the wisdom that you need to get through this. This aspect of self is taking you out of the cycles that you've been working in and pulling you into a new aspect of being, a new way of being, reintroducing you to your actual purity and the reason why you're here. Now, that purity always existed, but that sludge that's been thrown at you in the last couple of months, that's what you've done to yourself by doubting and maybe putting your energy in to the wrong types of situations, or if these situations in the past did not quite end up being that you helped them in the way that you wanted, you doubted your ability to do this, and you sort of blanketed your ability and your reason for trying to help people with the examples of people that just needed to help themselves. But you've been working on yourself, and now that you know to help people who are, everybody's worthy of help. That's not what I'm saying. But you now know to help people who are ready. And you now know to heal yourself first. You now know to put your energy first, when to back off, when to go in. You're not just randomly trying to go in and absolutely help everybody. It's not your job to do that. It's been very tough for you to learn that, but it's not your job to heal everybody at every moment of every juncture of your career. It just isn't. And that's been very tough for you to do that. Whenever you see suffering, you absolutely want to help. Now, this will never change, and that's beautiful, but you have done so much to actually heal your own suffering, and now you can help people in a brand new way. So all of this destruction that you have seen around you, and all this darkness and negativity that's been thrown at you, is now leaving. The circle is now gone. You are in a brand new circle of events. So we are going to put this away. You are now in the space of giving yourself the space to, I can see you like relieved and breathing into this new space of hand of God, and being grateful for this destruction. And it's not what, we've said that we're going to use that word, but actually it's just a breakdown and moving through all the rubble. You're now cleaning up that rubble, seeing yourself in a brand new way, and really appreciating the pureness of heart. And because you're appreciating the pureness of heart and understanding that at the core level, your shadow self will be able to work with you in a completely different way. And they won't be throwing things at you anymore, because now they're going to help you actually integrate and bathe in light and take that away. And you'll be able to integrate in a brand new way, which means you'll be able to help people in a brand new way. Now, don't be surprised, pile 2, if people start showing up in your life and you just start healing and doing all sorts of brand new things without consciously having to look for it anymore. You're a beacon of light, of purity. These situations will just sort of come for you now in a really good way. And you'll just be able to neutralize them without even making an effort. So take the space that you need to move into this brand new version of self. Again, hand of God. That's what you're here to do, to assist the hand of God. So your shadow self is working in a really unique and beautiful way. It's working. It has worked before by showing you what needs to be healed, but now it's working with you to actually heal all of that. All of the stuff all of that muck that came up, but you're coming out on the other side of that now, and this is an incredible time for you, pile 2. So please take the time that you need, the space that you need, the breaths that you need to reintegrate back into your life in a completely new, pure, new way, and never doubt your purity and light from now on in. Absolutely beautiful, pile 2. Please let me know if this resonates. Give me a thumbs up. I want to hear from you in the comments if you feel comfortable talking about any of this, if it resonates with you. Yeah, absolutely love hearing from you. Well done on everything that you've done and achieved, especially in the last 3 months. I feel as though you've been through hell and back, but you're way on the other side of this now, pile 2. So proud of you. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, pile 3, this is you. So as a reminder, this is a timeless message. We're looking for messages of love and light, but we're really delving in to your, so the dark shadow self, seeing what they have to say, getting you messages of love and light so we can integrate the knowledge of the dark side, or your shadow self, so we can integrate you fully and move you on in a brand new direction. So let's first of all, and again, this is a timeless reading, so this is your channel message. Trust in source, it knows the way. So we start the reading with trust in source, it knows the way. So this is what I've been doing with pile 1 and pile 2, and I'm really excited to do this. So usually I do the charms at the end, but we've been reading both. So let's do this. Lady of the Lake, wonderful. Absolute truth, courage, self-respect, responsibility. Number 1. Oh, this is incredible already. I can feel the energy of this pile 3. Isis, magic, my goodness. King of Staves reversed, and then Knight of Cups. So as we've been doing, I'm going to go ahead and pull some charms and read that at the same time. So, okay. So the first thing I'm getting is sort of martyr energy, really old energy, really old past lives. I feel as though you may not feel particularly, I mean, if you are Christian, that's wonderful, but you may be sort of non-denominational, but you definitely have a sort of a Christ-like affinity with energy. And certainly I'm getting a lot of Jesus energy and working with Jesus, and coming in for the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and elevating all of that. So first of all, you come in with the wisdom of truth. You've come in with your own magic, and you've also the one message that I'm getting here, and we're going to go back to your source message here. Trust in the source, it knows the way. So you are ready to, and this is a completely different energy from pile 1, but your message is going to be very similar insofar as your shadow self, your message from your shadow self is that you're ready to surrender to your higher self, to your higher understanding of who you are. You've done all the work that you were supposed to do. I feel as though, the inner work that you were meant to do. You have the owl here, which is absolutely a sign of wisdom and truth. You also have the affinity sign here, a sign of wisdom and truth. You hold ancient understanding of the differences of source. You have ancient understanding of the Christian sense of source and God. You have a different understanding of the pagan sense of God, or source of the goddess. You have different understandings across the way of Buddha and Hinduism. You understand the concepts across all boards, because you've come into a sense of self that is beyond sort of the sense of human, of being. I know this is a little bit ethereal, but bear with me, pile 3. This is a very intense reading, intense in a good way. You are definitely here as a beacon of light. You are definitely also here as somebody who can shine a light on different aspects of self, insofar as there's an integration of the understanding of how we live. Let me break that down. We're not just what we eat. We're who we hang out with. It's the energy that we let in, what we allow ourselves to indulge in, and different aspects of being and self. And this probably doesn't make sense because this is a pineapple, but what I'm getting from this is that you can take aspects of self from the ground up and put them together for other people and teach them how to bring in the beauty of all aspects, teach them how to eat better, how to think better about themselves, how to treat themselves better, how to protect their energy. There's a really intense sort of, but the intensity for you is not really a big deal. I feel like there's a lot of water energy around you. Some of you might be like Scorpios, some of you even like Cancer or Pisces, but there's a lot of Scorpio or Scorpionic energy around some of you. And again, this is a general reading. You might have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, and that's because you've definitely seen the division of rising from darkness and transforming into this sort of higher consciousness, which is really, it's sort of an intense thing to go through in this lifetime. It's sort of, in many ways, it's very sort of biblical. And you've done this by honing in on your own magic. And again, I want to be very clear. This has nothing to do with Christianity. This is beyond religion, but it's not beyond faith. So your shadow self, your message from the shadow self is that trust in source, it knows the way, but specifically from your shadow self, it's trust in your own faith. You know the way. So it's time for you now to indulge in the wisdom and integrate that wisdom into your life in a very profound way. And in that way, what you're doing is you're taking sort of what you've done in the past is you've taken the flower and you've done things seemingly backwards to other people. So your mode of healing may not have made sense to sort of people who were around you, but that's totally fine. What you've done is you've taken a flower. You would never actually hurt a flower. You would never pick a flower without asking if you could. You're very connected to nature and the land. So this is just being used as a symbol. For you to understand, and this is what I'm being shown. But you have a flower, and you're taking the petal off, and each petal that you're taking off is something that no longer serves you, someone that no longer serves you, a frame of mind that no longer serves you, a negative thought process or being in the world that no longer serves you. So even though this flower is full, what you're left now is just the middle. And I'm being shown that it's a sunflower and that the petals are now gone. And now what you're left with is the core of who you are. Now, the core of who you are is in Christ consciousness. But you have been working diligently to work beyond the essence of religion and go into your sense of faith. And this is your again, the message is loud and clear from your, not just your higher self, your dark self. And it was a dark self. I feel as though in many ways your shadow self has not worked against you, but it's felt as though to you it's worked against you, because what your shadow self was showing you is the differences between sort of religion and faith. And that is something that you've had to learn yourself. You've had to move away from the sense of religion and what it can do. And if you are within a religion, you had to learn what faith was and put together your own sense of what religion means to you. And if you had to disperse the understanding of religion altogether, then you've moved out of that and then completely re-immersed yourself in the idea of faith and who you are. Now, in order to do that, you've had to project your own magic, bring in your own wisdom of faith from past lives. And like I said, you've had many past lives with many different forms of wisdom. I feel as though you understand the beauty behind the religion. But this is for you is working within the divine masculine and the divine feminine, fusing the two and moving beyond a definition of religion. So again, it's a little ethereal, but the girls can tell is working with the divine feminine, but that's because you've been working with your own power and releasing the idea of the divine feminine, which was held in capture, was held in a cage, which was appropriated over the last 100 years, many decades, many hundreds of years, and we're now coming out of that. So you are left now with the middle, the sunflowers in there. And what I'm being shown is that, you have the sort of stuff, the very middle now of the sunflower. All the petals have gone because you've taken them out. But now you're left with that. You actually have the seeds of the sunflower. And that's what you're going to plant now and become the person that you're going to be. So your shadow self is now asking you to step into your power beyond any concepts of what you may have been brought up with. Like I said, the concept of religion or the concept of any kind of structure, where anyone or any being may have suffered from that concept, that structure. You're being asked to. And you've already done the work. You've already brought in the wisdom. You already have moved beyond the essence or have made it your own. You've either moved beyond the essence of what religion is, or you've made the religion your own on your own terms and are moving forward and grasping and reestablishing your own faith on your own terms. So this number one here, again, we have the images of the flower here, and we also have the butterflies. So you have moved into the stage of crystallization and moved into the butterfly stage. And your number one is for you to be number one and to put yourself out there on your own terms with a brand new platform of self, with this new sense of integration. So your shadow self is saying, it is time for you now. It is time for you to show your light. Now, this has definitely been a message that has been sort of pushed through into all of, pile 1 and pile 2, certainly being pushed into your reading. And when I say pushed, it's because it feels like kind of a birthing process. So you're pushing into the final stages of being you. Your shadow self is saying it's time to walk into your own faith. Now you've taken away what no longer works. You've redefined religion. You've redefined faith on your own terms. You've redefined your own magic. You've stepped into that power of what your power means to you, because you've redefined the structures that you were brought up in, and you now understand the wisdom of the affinity and the ethereal sense of what life really is, without having to rely on a structure. You're now sort of magical and structureless, which may have been really overwhelming for you in the past. But now that you're structureless, the paradox is that you can now form this intense sort of structure around you, and in order to pull in everything that you actually need by releasing the need for the structure, or releasing the hold that the structure had on you. And again, it would have been like structures like, we could break it down to the structure of the patriarchy, or what, the confines of what religion does, confining you to, you are this, you are that, taking the beauty of it, again, pulling it out, integrating it on your own terms, and redefining what it means for you, and developing your own faith within. So again, if you are religious, this is just something that you've done on your own terms, and it doesn't mean that you can't claim, Christianity. You can't claim all sorts of different. I mean, I don't consider Buddhism a religion, but you can't claim to be any of that. But within that, you have your own spectrum of faith. But there is a Christ-like consciousness to you, and there is a profound need that you have done to integrate the divine masculine and feminine and set what has been done wrong right. So this beauty here, again, your final message, and your message all the way through, is to walk into that light and your new definition of self, and allow yourself to shine like a lighthouse in the way that is free from definition. So you are now free from definition and walking in your own magic, because you have balanced. You've put yourself first, and understood, why your unique personality, why your unique sense of karma, and who you are as a person and why you're here. So we have the star here, and we have the owl. You're ready to put out this wisdom in a sort of galactic kind of ethereal way, which doesn't sound as though it's very grounded, but you're here to work into with other dimensions anyway. You're here to do all sorts of different things that will propel you sort of into the next lifetime. So for you, your spirit guides are saying, and they've been working diligently with your shadow self for some time. Your shadow self might have been actually very active and quite overwhelming at some point, especially I feel as though with pile 2 this happened too. But that's because you carried the burden of the exterior, of these systems of belief. You've carried them in your soul, and that's what you've done. You excommunicated them in a way, and then come into a form of self that is just yours. You may have turned certain modalities or systems of faith against yourself. You may have been very hard on yourself. You may have had sort of feelings of doom that have come in, and wondering if there was an aspect of you that was dying. You were very conscious of aspects of self that were dying away. So your shadow self has been very, very active with you. You may have gone even to the point of thinking that, part of you was dying, that maybe there was an aspect of you that was dying. Maybe you went to the doctor to see if you were okay, or maybe you were just wondering if, you were developing something, or if you were going to die. But that was an extreme way that hopefully didn't happen for many of you, but that's just showing you how powerful you are and how powerful your shadow self was, and how powerfully your shadow self was working with you in order to show you what needed to be released. Now, if any of these doubtful feelings come up where you're feeling like, if I'm turning this energy against myself, I wonder what it's doing to myself. Just return to the essence of faith. Return to the essence of the light that you have, and know that your magic is being shined throughout your body. And you are definitely the soul, the sort of soul can actually heal themselves, and you will definitely help people in this lifetime to heal themselves too, in many different forms and variations. And how you do that will be sort of on your own terms. There's many different aspects of healing. There's many different healers in the pile 3ers that are listening to this message. But for you, the Christ consciousness and being definitely sowing the seeds of these sunflowers that we have here, the wisdom of the owl, standing in on your own, and not being afraid to go out there on your own, and knowing that you have all of the magic and obviously the connection of the universe and source that you need, and the full integration of the masculine and feminine that you've been working on so diligently. So you have that balance, but being able to shine your light in an extreme fashion, and showing your originality, and it's an original form, without having to hide behind. I keep seeing you hiding behind a boulder. You've been doing that before, and maybe hiding behind all sorts of notions of self, which again you've now just sort of excommunicated and reestablished. And that's not that you don't respect any of those. You respect them in its individual form, as they present themselves, and as they've been integrated into society, but you no longer believe in them as a source to be contained within. You've moved out of that container, and you're now moving into a source of self. So one last time, trust in the source. Trust in source. It knows the way, and trust in your own faith. You know the way. So stand in your own originality and light. Your inner self, and I've just been told that your shadow self is now being referred to as your inner self. You've done this work now. When the shadow self comes up to warn you of something, it's just to highlight what just sort of just needs to be tweaked a little bit. But your inner being is ready to shine with your uniqueness. You've hidden your uniqueness in the past. You may have been ridiculed for it in past lives and in this lifetime, or certain aspects of it. But you're here to embrace the uniqueness of thought. You are here to definitely to redefine certain systems, either to break them apart, which you've done for yourself, but to redefine them in a completely different way. This is your card to be left with this beautiful sense of innocence. And with your flowers that you've now planted with your seeds, and they're coming up all around you, and they're just for you, and others will come to you for that advice. Never be ashamed of who you are and your uniqueness in this lifetime. You're walking into your own version of faith and integrating that into this lifetime in this world. You're here to do some incredible stuff. And for those of you who are young at heart, who feel as though, you know, you're a little bit older in years, your life is just beginning. And for those of you who are a little bit younger and listening to this, you know, pile 3ers, you are an old soul, and get ready for your life to be sort of hijacked in a way. It's going to feel like that initially, but then you've got the reins here. Your inner being, your inner self, which is now shifted, was your shadow self, is letting you know that you're integrated enough to walk into this. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't feel as though you're being hijacked. You've done the work. You got this. So not a small thing, pile 3. I feel like all of these messages in one way or another have been quite intense. So, but you're ready to hear them. If this resonated with you, do give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about any of this, and if this resonated. I'm always happy to hear from you guys. If any of you are ready for a reading, you can get in touch with me via the information below. I would love to work with you. And until we meet again, you take care of yourself and be proud of who you are and embrace that uniqueness. Okay, pile 3, take care. Bye-bye.